He's back in the Freak Nation. Justin Ashley running for a Top Fuel championship. The NHRA currently sitting top 5, fourth in the Top Fuel points as we go into the Lucas Oil Nationals, Brainerd, Minnesota. And we know Skag Power is part of your partnership, also Toyota, Lucas Oil. When you roll into a venue that has a partner on the side, your partner has their logo on the side of your car, part of your crew, do you stiffen up a little bit knowing, it'd be damn good if I won this event at Lucas Oil, the Lucas Oil Nationals?
Yeah, we try not to think about it that way, but it's hard not to think about it that way. Like the perfect example is Brainerd coming up. It's the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals, and it's been the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals for a while now. They just announced the Toyota sponsorship of the U.S. Nationals. So there's so much pressure as is when you go into every race. And it's not like that pressure comes externally from the sponsors themselves, but internally, yes, there is some added pressure to it. We definitely want to perform at a high level at each and every race. But when your sponsor that you have, when your partner that you've had for years is actually sponsoring that specific event, there's nothing better than putting that car into the winner's circle. So I think internally there's certainly a lot of pressure in that regard, but in a good way.
With regard, though, to the Lucas Oil Nationals at Brainerd, your very next race, how hard or easy is it, or you don't want it to be easy, actually, how hard is it to not look past that event, even though it's sponsor involved, because you've got the big go coming up, and then you've got the playoffs, and those are really important as far as prestige to focus on as well?
The U.S. Nationals is so prestigious. So I think it takes discipline more so than anything else. I think maybe if this was a few years ago, maybe it would have been easier to look past it, but that's not the case anymore. The competition is so difficult. If we choose to look past it, we're going to find ourselves in so much trouble. Each event is so important. Each event is so critical, especially as we get closer and closer to the countdown to the championship. So Brainerd is super important to us. We cannot and will not allow ourselves to look past it. We have a lot of exciting things. I don't want to give too many things away, but a lot of exciting things that are going on surrounding that event as well. So it's important to us. We're not going to look past it. We have to focus on it. And there are just so many cars that are just so talented, so many teams that are so good out there. So we have to put our best foot forward and try and leave there in a better position than we were when we got there.
Yeah, it seems crazy because this is another place where I wanted to go with you. Why does the competition seemingly get harder and harder and harder every year?
It's amazing. I think it's great. Honestly, it does get harder and harder. And we used to talk about it all the time, and maybe it was a little bit cliche, but I don't think it's cliche anymore. I think we've reached a point where it's a fact. I think it's across all the different professional categories, specifically in the nitro ranks. But when you look at Top Fuel, I mean, there are now, with ETA coming out, I believe 14 full-time cars that are going to be at each and every event throughout the rest of the season. And then you have other part-time cars that are filling in that, sure, they are technically part-time cars, but are they really part-time cars? They could win any given Sunday, really. So it's just, it's a matter of depth. It's a matter of talent. It's a matter of the fact that we're at the point in the year now where everyone kind of has enough races underneath them to know what they have, and they could take that data information, find ways to use it to the best of their ability. So it's just the competition is so stacked right now. And I think specifically at this moment, the margin for error is smaller than it's ever been before.
You're fourth in points right now. Back in mid-May, you were leading the points. Is that the depth of field that has hammered you down from first to fourth in the standings?
I think it's a number of different things. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to us, right? There are no excuses. I think that we've had a great year in a lot of different ways. We'd certainly like to be a little bit higher in points, but I also think it speaks to the depth of the competition. Like you said, maybe if this was years ago, we would have been able to get away and turn on some wind lights in rounds that, we just can't really necessarily do that anymore. So I think it's two things. I think ultimately it comes down to our performance and finding ways to continue to improve, and then how good the actual competition is. But I think the last time I spoke to you guys was right after Pomona, when they delayed that final round and we ended up winning in Arizona. So what I'm hoping is the same thing will happen again. If it happens again, except this time in Brainerd, I'm going to have to come on the show like before each race, if that's the case.
Hey, we can, whatever you need, Justin.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the flexibility, because it might be necessary.
In 24 years, we've made a big deal, maybe bigger than it should have been, about the SpeedFreaks mojo. So we could give you a little bit of that. We could break off a piece for you. You're sitting there with that big Toyota on your chest. Toyota doesn't have a Hemi engine, 500 cubic inch, 11,000 horsepower. Your Top Fuel rail is not a Camry. So what does Toyota do for a Top Fuel car that you're sitting there proud with that, besides give you money or support?
Yeah, a lot of it is on the technical side. A lot of it's the data, the information, and engineering. If you ever go to an NHRA event, I actually get that question a lot. There's a lot of people with Toyota logos on looking at the track. They have a big Toyota Gazoo Racing North America trailer that's on site, and we get constant feedback between the engineers that are on site and our crew chiefs and our crew members with all the data and information that we need to be successful. So it starts there with all of that. That helps us perform at a high level. We also have our Sequoia tow vehicles. I drive a 4Runner personally. So we have the vehicles, we have the support on the technical side. And then in addition to that, we have the marketing support, and they help us to kind of grow our brand, both as a team and as individuals. But I think what they do really is critical. And it's a great question because a lot of people ask that, even though their components aren't necessarily on the car, what they provide us from a data standpoint is really invaluable. And it's really critical to us when we race.
All right. So I'm going to jump in here. Give me one thing that they've done for you this year that was the difference between winning and not winning.
Well, you could go to, I mean, let's just take, for example, we won the race, the 4-wide race in Charlotte, right? Going up there. Normally, it's so funny when you're in a 4-wide situation, you're in the final. It's kind of quirky because it feels like a final, but it kind of feels like a semifinal at the same time. But just going up there, the weather conditions were kind of changing going into that final round, and having that last minute kind of update, constant information and constant feedback from Toyota, where we might have gone up there with a certain approach beforehand, but then I think that we were a little bit more aggressive in that final round as opposed to where we would have been before, and we needed it because we won a really close final round race. So I think that's a great example. It was the final round of the 4-wides at Charlotte earlier this year where we got that information at the last minute from the engineering side that was necessary for us to make the correct changes.
That's fascinating. Can you walk us through how then that gets relayed to you, how it gets relayed from someone in Toyota to your engineering department? How does that all go down? Because you got the helmet on, you're strapped in, you're ready to go through the water box. What's happening?
Yeah, and I want nothing to do with it. See, that's the key. If I get involved in it, we're going to be in trouble. So I leave that to the experts. No, I mean, I just sit there. A lot of it comes from, so there's really two sides. There's what goes on in between. Let's say there's just give or take 55 minutes to an hour and a half between, let's say, a semifinal and a final round, or a second round, a third round, however that is. And I'm in the lounge kind of hanging out, talking things over with Mike and Tommy. And I see the information constantly flying. Okay, this is what the grip says. You know, this is how much the grip is on the left, you know, in the left lane or the right lane. This is what the track temperature is. This is the water grains. This is the air temperature, so on and so forth. So they have an app like anything else where they're constantly getting that feedback, constantly getting that information. And then once we get up there, they have all their engineers actually on the starting line at that point in time, speaking with Mike and Tommy. So there's really no in between, whether it's at the lounge or actually when we're up there. They are constantly giving us that feedback, whether it's through the app or in person.
Freak Nation, his name is Justin Ashley, currently sitting fourth in points, Top Fuel, NHRA, gets set for the Lucas Oil Nationals in Brainerd. We know John Force does not drive in the Top Fuel class. He does drive in the funny car class, has been missing some races. And again, we just want to get John Force back up and right to where we can get him back on TV. Let's leave the car driving aside. But from a just racer standpoint, in a series that has ridden the shoulders of a 16-time funny car champion, have you felt the impact of not having John Force at the track?
I have. It's different. It's a little odd. There's a different feeling because you're so used to going to these races and having John Force there. He's a legend for so many different reasons, not only his performance on the racetrack, but the way he represents himself and his partners off the racetrack. And he really is the epitome of NHRA drag racing. So it feels different without him there, especially when Brittany wasn't there too, in kind of a weird way. It just felt like something was missing and a piece of us within the NHRA community was missing. So I'm really happy to see her back out at the racetrack. And I'm happy to hear that at least he's taking positive steps and moving in the right direction. Because for us, it's not even about the driving. We'll worry about that later. It's about him as a human being and him, you know, getting back to full form and getting back into health and good shape. And I have no doubt that we'll see him back at the track soon, at the very least, you know, supporting and representing his team. So it's definitely a different feel to it. It's something that we've never, I mean, there was a brief period of time during COVID when he wasn't around, but other than that, it's something I think we're all getting used to.
You could kind of identify with this Brittany running the Top Fuel class, of course, his daughter. Your dad, Mike Ashley, ran in the funny car class for a number of years. Granted, you weren't running in the NHRA and funny cars when your dad was running, but can you kind of identify with Brittany if you saw your dad wreck at a racetrack, and have you thought about how you would react to watching your dad in an accident?
Yeah, it's a scary thought, but when that did happen, I did think back to when my dad was racing, and when he was in funny car, I was probably 12 or 13 or something like that. And, kudos to her. I don't know the details, but I mean, certainly I think she did the right thing by skipping the one race. I think it was Norwalk that she skipped to be there with her father and be there with her family. I think that was a very mature decision. I think that was the right thing to do. And then kudos to her for getting back on the racetrack, because that's got to be a difficult thing to do, with her father and her thoughts and prayers and her whole family back at the hospital. It was time for her to get back out there and racing. But quite frankly, there's so many different things that you're responsible for as a driver. And then to have that in the back of your mind, it takes a lot of mental conditioning. It takes a lot of discipline. So, my hat's off to her for being able to do that. But yeah, just thinking about that and the fact that, it could have been my father years ago when he was racing is a scary thought, and it puts things in perspective very quickly.
Are we ever going to see Mike Ashley come back and you guys race at the same time together? I see that smile.
Yeah, I'm trying. So they came out. No, the short answer is no, but it doesn't mean I'm not trying.
Pause. There was a pause in there, Ashley.
So it's funny. So I've been, kind of needling him a little bit. So they came out a few days ago with like a 3-race. Drag Illustrated is doing a 3-race pro mod type of series in the winter, and I just shot him a text, like I screenshotted it and sent him a text, and then he writes back just in capital letters NO. Like not happening. So I nudged him a little bit, and no, I mean, like I think he's like, you never say never. I'd love to see it. I think it'd be fun, but ultimately I think he's really enjoying what he's doing. He loved racing pro mod. He loved racing funny car. I'd love to see him back in the car one day, but by the grace of God, he had a good, safe, awesome, healthy career, won a lot of races. And I think he's enjoying this part of his career.
But never say never.
Just putting it out there. I don't know. You never know, right?
We can nudge too.
You never know. Exactly. Hey,
look, my daughter's 10 years old. She wants to play midfield and goalie in soccer, and she's damn good. Nothing would give me more pleasure than maybe 5-6 years from now, putting her in goal and blasting a freaking top shelf goal on my daughter and kicking her ass, putting her to bed, saying your old man still got it. Listen, jeez. Your old man wants to kick I don't give a damn if you got more trophies than him sitting behind you right now. He probably still wants to kick your ass.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. That's how we would have it, and vice versa. Without him, these trophies wouldn't be behind me anyway, if we're being honest, right? So we kind of share them collectively as a group. But now that would be a lot of fun. Hey, you never know. I'm not closing the book completely. You guys will have to speak to him, but for now, he's enjoying his role as is.
Now, talk about your mom. She'll kick your ass in anything.
Right?
She's a saint. I don't know how she does it. I would hate to do that to her again. Like, I don't.
Back into the car.
She's still like, really? Like, no tennis, no golf. Like, what? Like, she's like, I got through it with your father. I watched him race for so many years. Like, I can take a deep breath. Psych. Just kidding. No, so I don't know how, God bless her. I don't know how she does it.
Well, nothing would make us happier, Broham, to have you or Antron Brown in the winning circle at Brainerd supporting those Lucas Oil colors.
We could do one too.
We could do one too. I would love that. Antron and I are still very close. So I was happy to see him win last weekend in Sonoma. That was a neat deal. Put Lucas Oil in the winner circle. So hopefully this time around in Brainerd, hopefully it'll be us. And hoping that we could race in the finals. But Brainerd's such a fun race with the zoo and everything that surrounds it. And I'm not going to give you all the details, but just stay tuned. We have a lot of stuff on the Metalcraft of Mayville and Skag Power Equipment and Skag Racing side that's probably going to come out at some point early next week about some of the fun, exciting new things that we're doing. So special thanks to Randy, Maria, the whole team at Skag. It should be a pretty neat event.
It's awesome.
Sweet.
Bam.
Teaser.
Well, buddy, it's always fantastic when you roll in the Freak Nation, man. All right.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Anytime. Thank you for having me, guys.
All right. Again,
Thank you very much.
Just show your old man all those trophies behind you every chance you get.
Yeah, well, you might have to shoot him a text and see if you could nudge him. Maybe if enough people do, we'll get back out here.
Atta boy. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, guys.
This freaking segment is brought to you by our friends at Lucas Oil. Now, what automobile do you have in the garage? I bet Lucas Oil could keep that thing fat and happy and on the road. From everyday car care, heavy-duty trucking to agriculture, hot rods, classic cars, motorcycles, and marine, Lucas Oil has what you need to keep those engines, interiors, and exteriors looking like and running like they're supposed to be. For more information, go to the website, lucasoil.com, and find the perfect Lucas Oil product. Keep your rides on the road.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.